Leadership power facilitates systems intelligence in social structures. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Leadership Power Paradigms. This is Bill Thomas, your host and presenter for today's episode. And as is our custom and our tradition, we like to wait a few extra seconds just to let everybody join us and on the webinar. So if you give me a quick moment, and bear with me. I'll wait for people to join us and get things going here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Leadership Power Paradigms. This is Bill Thomas, your host and presenter. For today's episode, it's time to put on our lab coats and goggles as we take this 14 or so minute tour of a leadership science system structure. So let us begin. In this description of the earliest Christian communities, we see how God uses the model of Jesus Christ and his appointed leaders to develop, guide, and strengthen those individual Christian believers to ensure that those who followed Christ's teachings would be totally equipped to carry out the mission, observe the way of living, and conform to the lifestyle commanded by Jesus when he walked upon the earth. By following and observing these principles, precepts, and tenets of our Lord, Christian leaders will help construct a society of divinely empowered people to proclaim God's gifts of everlasting life and great rewards. Perhaps this short story about the dilemma of economist William Bryan Arthur might provide an answer to this question. Professor Arthur needed to prove the effects of increasing returns on economic systems to his colleagues in academia. However, Arthur avoided acceding to their requests for making predictions about these effects because he knew that the essence of science lies in explanation, which exposes and examines through experiments or testing and then explains the fundamental mechanisms in nature and natural phenomena. In the end, Arthur is the economist that is credited with influencing and describing the modern economic theory of increasing returns. Author Kevin Kelly cleverly examines and describes everything you ever wanted to know about the applied sciences or technologies, as well as the natural and social sciences in his book, What Technology Wants. Kelly refers to all of these areas as forming the technium while proving the interconnectivity of science with technology and its innovative applications. Most importantly, Kelly helps us learn how the roles, possibilities, and essential elements that create the broad spectrum of this technium and makes the products of the technium so valuable are useful and important to every human on this planet. Eric Ries explains that Taylor preached his message about the use of science in human endeavors and their enterprises, that is, applying the principles, purposes, and processes of scientific management as a way to encourage leaders to study and think about improving such areas as worker efficiencies, standardizing workflows and tasks, and systematic management of resources, to name just a few. Rees summarizes these concepts in this short statement that is, management is human systems engineering. Yet few managers have embraced Taylor's core idea that worker contributions of solutions or ideas, and ecosystemic efficiencies should be consciously and scientifically studied and improved upon through usage of a rigorous experimental approach. Let's not forget that in Taylor's time, men made up the majority of the workforce, so please substitute people, men and women, or he and she for the word man or men. Thank you. What makes a system a structured complex of events, elements, and elegant equilibrium? Leaders should appreciate that all organized human systems are dynamic, evolving, and adaptive complexes involving flows of myriad interactions, information, and intentions. In his study of evolving systems recognition and description, Dr. Mario Ludovico proposes that assuming that the interaction flows are intentional implies the assumption that the activators of the flows attach the expectation of some effect to the interactions they generate. There is no inconvenience in defining the efficacy associated with any interaction flow as the mathematical difference between the results intended by the interaction and the adverse factors that oppose the achievement of the results. The adverse factors I mean here are dubbed the costs of the interaction by a terminological convention. Costs are all kinds of burdens, constraints, hindrances, frictions, errors, etc., which can attenuate or cancel or even overcome the value of the achieved results. Both results and cost shall be thought of as entities somehow quantifiable by homogeneous measurement units. In principle, the observer or analyst assumes that the values for results and costs are subjectively assessed by the system's activators according to evaluation criteria are likely different from case to case and objectively unidentifiable. Effective languages are those which allow scientists and technicians to describe, design, predict, and produce events with the desired precision in order to obtain the expected results systematically. In modern science and technology, words, concepts, and symbols represent specific operations of identification, measurement, quantification, and calculation of physical things, effects, and events which are observable to the extent to which they are identifiable and measurable by use of conventional specific instruments. In principle, the specific connection of the operational language with any described event allows anyone to replicate and verify at will and with no ambiguity the objective meaning of statements made and texts written and diffused in modern scientific language. Out of the sphere of operational languages, there is no modern science, but only abstract speculation and philosophy, which, as to practical effectiveness, no mathematical language can turn into scientific stuff, unless mathematics itself is the stuff addressed. Obviously, this is not to say that operational words or concepts have no effects. The point is that these other effects, that is, the effects that may be caused by or associated with words and concepts of common use or religions or metaphysics or any abstract theories, cannot be kept under objective, precisely predictable, replicatable, constant measurable control. In operational aspect of meaning, in synthesis, which appeared, this article appeared in Synthesis Magazine, Volume 8, Numbers 6 through 7, in 1950 through 1951, the author explains that operational language includes any standardized technological language such as sets of detailed plans, drawings, models, and specifications prepared to direct and supervise constructions, experiments, or events of any kind. Dr. Ludovico also states that the interaction flows are intentional. That is, it is a quantifiable intent and is always associated with any interaction unit per time unit. Thus, any interaction shall be viewed as some conceptual connection of a flow of measurable things with the expression of the intent, that is, an intent which has an end to achieve that motivates the interaction. Interactions are flows of anything real, commodities, people, information, energy, etc., from any activator to another one of the system. Flows as transfer per time unit of real things from any source to any destination are, by assumption, always measurable. Otherwise, it's a system that does not regard this theory. The system's interaction flows may consist of either homogeneous or inhomogeneous quantities. However, in the latter case, it is necessary to establish an adequate quantification criteria which allows the system's description to express the detected flows in homogeneous measurement units. In this connection, it is also perceived that the system's activators, that is, the system's components, can modify the respective actions under the rise of unpredicted constraints that might improve or worsen the effectiveness of their activities. In this sense, the thought system is both evolving and adaptive, since the occurrence of alterations in the generation and distribution of the interactions brings about transformations but does not necessarily imply the disappearance of the system, albeit such an event is in principle possible at any stage of the system's evolution. Dr. Ludovico continues proposing his theory about evolving systems by explaining that starting from any detected initial configuration of the interactive distribution, changes in the system shall be expected that imply both redistributions of the interactions and modifications in the action potentials of the system's component. The complexity of the system is strictly related to the intrinsic impossibility to predict stable, even if minimal, changes in the initial interaction distribution. Temporary, accidental, or periodical changes in the interaction pattern of intentional interactions can usually be observed or thought of as effects of seasonal or recurrent modification in the overall natural or cultural context. Evolution processes, however, are caused by irreversible changes in the set of intents that constitute the actual structure of such systems, as it is also denounced by irreversible changes in the initial basic interaction distribution. A salient feature of such a thought system is that all of the inherent characteristic quantities, which are parameters, constant, indicators, etc., are defined, as defined by the theory, can be expressed in function of the recognized and quantified interactions only. This means also that once the system's specific interactions are quantified by appropriate methods and instruments, all of the significant analytical conclusions are also quantified and expressed independently of any other quantity that is extraneous to the system of the interactions described and represented. Simply put, if your philosophical, moral, social, or structural agency positions help you to build empathy for your people or stakeholders, display commitment to your ideals, insights, or individuals, impacts the meaning for your processes, policies, or products, and if your agency of signification inspires trust in your integrity, involvement, or intentions, your leadership power will be quantifiable and easily recognizable to everyone. The properties of the system I have just introduced hint clearly at the representation of systems whose components direct their respective actions according to intents, which shape the ends to achieve I previously mentioned, which are pursued by each activator through interactions with other activators that recognize each other as such. In a word, using something like this leadership case model with its 4 distinctive activities will enable you to more clearly evaluate or assess the effectiveness and shortfalls of organizational, team, or individual performances. Thus, the point to account for is that the activators, that is, the system's components, can in general express a certain degree of intelligent, thoughtful, albeit not necessarily brilliant activity. As we will see, the involved overall degree of intelligence could be measured to the level of the system's internal organization that I dub syntropy, or the power of its synergy or signification. Even though today's episode features greater concentration on systems theory and operations, it also examined the principles of science, scientific approaches, and treatments of leadership phenomena. You might better appreciate how leadership power employs a great amount of socially oriented technologies such as mass or interpersonal communications, social philosophy functionings, moral and structural agency, critical thinking, and much more. And finally, I hope you have come to understand that every leadership action that you take is, in fact, a structurally complex, adaptive, and evolving system. This ends today's lesson. Now, you're looking at a catalog of materials, training, and coaching support, which are featured in my Leadership Power Paradigms Producer Tools program. You can see that this program is designed to dramatically improve your leadership performances and use your leadership strengths to comprehensively empower the achievements of your people. Right now, this program is available to you at my lowest possible price, so I urge you to visit the webpage at www.one-im.com/LPP-tools. And you can also see it right in the middle of the slide, that big thing in red letters there. Or you can click on the Enroll and Get Started Now button that you see on the right side of your screen. And if you like what you read on that page, go ahead and get going now. Firstly, when you click on the Enroll and Get Started Now button, it will open up a new browser tab or new browser window for you, so you don't actually have to leave the webinar. You can still stay on the webinar, and it'll just have that ready for you when you're ready to read it. And when you do read on the page, when you do read if you do like what you read on the page, I just want to remind you that I always offer my famous no questions asked, no risk to you 30-day money back guarantee for this program. And actually, I need to say it another way. It's no questions asked, no risk to you, money back guarantee for this program. So you really have nothing to lose by enrolling now in this awesome educational program. And if you do, I look forward to working with you as your coach, tutor, mentor, consultant, counselor, teacher, educator, and friend. How's that? Okay, so while you're clicking on that button or going to that webpage that I mentioned, I'm going to run back over to the control panel so that I can send you our 2 links to our 2 bonus gifts. Our first bonus gift is 5 leadership uplifter tasks infographic. It's a 1-page PDF document. It fits on 1 sheet of paper, which is nice. I encourage you to download that infographic and then print it out and put it on your desk or put it someplace where you can refer to it as you go through your day as a leader. And I will already guarantee that 1 or more of those 5 tasks are going to be included in every single leadership act that you take. So you need to really have that nearby, and you can refer to it as you go throughout your day, your working day. And the second bonus gift that we have for you for attending live or attending our, what do you call it, our replay recording, if you happen to be on that, is the 8-page Words with Wisdom paper, and that contains a number of the principles and strategies and tips and techniques and diagrams that we included either on this episode of Leadership Power Paradigms or in previous episodes. So again, that's a PDF document. I encourage you to download it. Some people prefer to print out 8 pages. It's only 8 pages, so that's not too bad. You can print that out, or you can read it on your computer, or you can read it online, for that matter. Okay, and those are our gifts to you for attending today's session or the webinar replay. And speaking of the webinar replay, if you are attending the replay recording, why then you'll look on the right hand side of your screen and you'll see the question box. And if you type in a quick question to me, you don't have to include your name or your email address because that my system's already recorded that. That's how you registered, either for the live or the webinar replay. But you can send me a question. Just type in the question or comment that you have, okay? And when you click on the email us, it will automatically email that question or comment to me. And it will also tell me that, your name and your email address is already included in that, which is a nice part of our system. So we like using it for that very reason. And you can get your question answered or comment spoken to because I always reply to every question or comment that is made. And when I do send you an email back, I might even ask you for your I might even ask you for your phone number if you're located in the U.S. or Canada, and if you choose to give me that, I'll give you a call, and we can discuss my answers and your question a little more deeply, and that's a free call, so don't worry about it. And if you're located outside of the U.S. or Canada, then please include your Skype ID. Okay, your Skype ID, and I love speaking to people on Skype because it allows both of us not only the ability to speak with each other, but also, more importantly, we can share. I can share things in the chat area of Skype, like maybe a link to another article or paper that I think you might find helpful. Or I will even upload an article or a paper or a report or something that further explains or gives you a little more information about the question or comment that you had. So anyway, Skype is a great thing to use, and it's a free service as long as, it's a Skype call. So, I think everybody can be happy that way. And even if you're located in the US or Canada and you want to use Skype, well, fine, then let's do it that way. Okay, so I'm just looking to see if there are any questions or comments from anybody on the live broadcast, and I'm not seeing any. So what I will do is I will, of course, all you guys know that you get the replay recording link anyway. That's sent a few hours after the webinar is over, so not a problem. You can always go in and use the question box that way too. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us today in our episode of Leadership Power Paradigms. This is Bill Thomas, your host and presenter for today's episode. God bless each and every one of you. Godspeed to you all, and I wish each and every one of you the very best of success in all of your leadership endeavors. Take care.